We knew that Blachowicz was the bigger, stronger guy. But many, and as I said, including myself, thought that the quicker, fast Adesanya could use those advantages. And obviously the people in Las Vegas probably thought that too, because they had Adesanya as a favorite, right, Ken? Adesanya was...
Yep.
was
pretty sizable favorite.
Yeah,
I think at one point maybe minus 250.
Yeah. I'm sorry to those poor casinos out there that I moved them the wrong way. I'm sorry, guys. You might have to put up one less chandelier next month. But to Blochowicz's credit, here's the key to me, and what I bring on this show that should be brought for me, that has to be put out. We understand all the semantics. We understand the size and this and that and figuring what's going to happen and all of it up until the point that it happens. But to Blachowicz' credit, he used smart fundamentals very, very well. And, you know, he didn't have the sizzle type of dynamic talent that Adesanya has, that we can often fall in love with, Ken. You know, and I've talked about this many times on this show, where I often say, you hear me say it, that one guy has that neon talent, and we fall in love with it. You know, it was like, whoa, wow, it's dynamic talent. It's, you know, it's, you look at it, it's so easy to fall in love with, and then we forget about the other talents that are out there. I talked about it earlier, about being dependable, about being steady, about being fundamentally solid. You know, we forget about that talent. And Adesanya is tremendous, you know, but there is that less combustible talent, as I just talked about, that doesn't glow in the dark, steady and effective, and it's just good, solid fundamentals, and that's a talent. And Blachowicz displayed it. That's actually part of what went along with his displaying his talent was how calm he was. And as I said, how steady he was, his approach, his togetherness. And those talents, those traits, they're developed. You're not born with them. Some of the other talents, you're genetically, you know, predisposed to them when you're born with your parents. But these other things are acquired. You can acquire them. You can develop them by the way you live, by what you put yourself through, by what you condition and train yourself to be. And those talents were on display, really, for everybody to see. I hope people didn't miss it. I hope at the end of the day they didn't just see a bigger guy and a stronger guy, you know, who wound up getting the smaller guy on the mat long enough to, you know, to take the fight. I hope they saw that while they were standing. His effective jab. I thought that Adesanya missed the boat a little bit by not using his jab enough, his long jab. He's got a very good jab and a long jab. He didn't use it enough. And when he did, sometimes his punches weren't long enough. He didn't stretch them out enough. And he allowed Blachowicz to get into range. And Blachowicz scored because of that. But Blachowicz, when they were standing, he was using a jab, kind of like George Foreman was against Joe Frazier. You know, not as dramatic. But it was doing the same job. George Foreman's jab with Frazier before he took him out with the uppercut was discombobulating Frazier. It was keeping his rhythm off, not allowing him to get into gear. And the same thing, I saw Blachowicz with that jab, straight, strong, shorter than the jab of Adesanya, but accurate. And again, it wasn't allowing Adesanya to get a rhythm. It was discombobulating him, throwing him off. And it was really effective. And it was sending a message. I can get to you this way, and you know I'm going to get to you in my way. You know I'm the better guy on the floor. We haven't gotten there yet, but I can handle myself standing in your element, in the things that's your forte, in the things that you're supposed to dominate. I'm good here too. So it's sending a little bit of a message, a mental message, a confidence message, which is all part of the sport, all part of the game, all part of the deal. So I found it very interesting, and I wanted to make sure that I properly we always give credit to Adesanya. I think he's a special talent. I think he'll come back. I think he's a special person. But I want to give credit to Blachowicz for doing the things, the subtle things. Again, we look at his size and maybe we say, oh, he had an advantage. He was the bigger guy. Yeah, sure. He got a hold of him. No. Before we ever got to that, when he was supposed to be the slower guy, the less mobile guy, the easier to hit guy, the easier to outmaneuver guy, he wasn't those things. Why? Because he didn't rush in. If he would have just behaved like the bigger guy, like a bull in a china shop, maybe a little like Costa did against Adesanya in the fight before, right? Adesanya's fight before that. Maybe. I'm not knocking Costa in any way at all. But I'm just saying, Blachowicz chose to be and showed to be, Ken, a lot more than just a big, strong guy. He didn't just rush in. If he would have just rushed in those early rounds, well, then you would have saw the speed advantage. You would have saw the counter-punching technique and the great striking ability of Adesanya. And he would have had an edge because of that. Then the smaller guy would have been allowed to have an edge as a smaller guy and taken advantage of a bigger guy who's slower, less technical, less mobile. But it didn't happen because the bigger guy said, I'm going to be more than just a bigger guy. I'm going to be a smart big guy. I'm going to be a technical big guy. I'm going to be a fundamental big guy. I'm going to be a solid, dependable big guy. Wow. That's what he was. He used his jab. He took his time in his approach. He worked his way in. He didn't leave himself open. He didn't rush in there like I just said. I'm going to be the bigger guy. I'll just get in there fast. Yeah, then you would have been the smaller guy because you might have got dropped as you were rushing on the way in. He didn't do any of that. He was smart. He was contained. He was deliberate. He knew exactly what he needed to be. He was in control. And that should be given credit. And I made sure coming in today that he's going to get credit for that. And credit to Adesanya too, because he was fighting this time more than just a big guy. He was fighting a well-rounded big guy, a smart big guy, a really together big guy. And, so I give a lot of credit to Adesanya just for doing what he did and getting to the end of that fight. And I had it 2-2 at one point. That's another thing we could talk about. There's a lot to talk about. I had it 2-2 going into the last round, and there's no doubt that Blachowicz dominated that last round. No doubt about it. So you want to give him an extra point? Okay, so they had the right guy winning. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with the disparity in the scores, with the size of the scores, with, I think, two of those judges, where they had it
49-45 on two cards, 49-46 on another.
I have a problem with that. I thought that we had judging problems only in boxing. I got news for you. You guys got problems too. You guys got problems too over there. Rogan and all you guys with the judging over there. I thought it was only me. It was only us over here. Joe, all of yous, you guys got your own mess sometimes with those judges, and I don't get the math. I don't get the math. I get you give an extra point for the last round, but the rest of it, again, you guys got to deal with it, not me. But I was like, wow. I thought boxing was the only ones who got it all wacky.